All right. I think we're about ready here, folks. Thanks so much for your patience. It takes a little extra step with this with Instagram, so I got to go now. All right. So, everybody, it's Eric alongside Rod live to talk about Michigan State's game against the 14th ranked Razorbacks of Arkansas. Michigan State won 69-66, and we'll be moving on to another home game Thursday night against the San Jose State. Before we begin, a quick word of thanks to Paul Hedlund for his generous donation to the show via Venmo, and to Gary Krupa, who became a supporter of the show on Substack and will now receive an ad-free audio version of the podcast. If you want to join our growing legion of supporters and help us add more features and content, head on over to tffinots.com/support. If you're on X, YouTube, or Instagram right now, please drop a comment, especially if you're on Instagram. Make sure it's working okay. Drop a comment. Tell us where you're listening and watching from. It's always kind of fun to keep track of where you guys are listening. And then we had a ton of fun with the Razorback fans. They found our pregame show. I don't know if you noticed that, Rod, but we had a ton of people, Razorback fans.
Most of the comments were great. There were a few that were dummies, but that happens in every fan base. I was reasonably impressed.
I kind of say they sort of put us Michigan State fans a little bit to shame. I mean, there were a whole lot more of them than there were Michigan State fans commenting. So anyway, we'll hopefully get that fixed out here.
Well, you got to remember,
hopefully they come back and join us too.
A lot of our folks got their comments out of the way on the live broadcast, so
that's true.
You got to remember that.
Right. I don't know if they'll all be joining us, but I hope they do. I think it was a fantastic game.
I bet not.
We'll see.
But, yeah.
We'll see. All right. So it was a fun game to attend. Lots of energy. Both teams played hard. Not the cleanest we saw, which was evidenced by Michigan State shooting from basically anywhere in the field. But high-level athletes, really great competition. Arkansas led by 3 at half, but then Michigan State blitzed out to, I think, about a 2 to 6 or 7 point lead margin most of the second half. They were up, I believe, 8 points with 5:21 to play.
Yep.
Then failed to score a single field goal. Fortunately, they had a couple free throws, just 3, which was just enough to give them an edge to win the game and defeat a really good Razorback team, a team that I think is going to, like Michigan State, look a lot different at the end of the season. But they've got a lot of really impressive pieces. So I think a lot of excitement if you're an Arkansas fan too. But the key is, as you point out to me when I'm right back, that it's now an 84-1. That's the important number that anyone needs to know as a Michigan State fan. Michigan State is 84-1 in the month of November at the Breslin under Tom Izzo. So great game. And I kind of let you go from there, I suppose.
Yeah. We talked about in the pregame. Look, these things are kind of no downside sort of games because, if you're worried about, it's going to destroy a team's confidence if you get dog walked, that's not Michigan State's program anyway. They've been dog walked in non-conference games before.
Right.
And somehow survive, So I wasn't too worried about that. If it happened, it happened. But if they played well, and I think overall they absolutely did that, I think that it, as we talked about, it tells you this is a team with real potential. Mm-hmm. I don't remember Michigan State under Izzo winning a game like this and not having a really good season, even by their standards. Now, somebody pointed out the 2020 Champions Classic against Duke. I say that doesn't count. At the time, you would have thought that, but that Duke team didn't even make the NCAA tournament. They were bad.
Right.
So it didn't really demonstrate what you would think it would.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate the thought, but I'm going to say my comment is still intact in terms of its accuracy. That assumes that this Arkansas team is as good as we think they're going to be. And I do think they will be very good.
I think so too.
What you saw was a Michigan State team that won this game in a very Izzonian way, if I can use that term. I just made it up.
There you go.
It was balls to the wall effort in every phase of the game. Rebounding, defense, loose balls, drawing contact, aggressive is how I would describe it. And they had to be, because as we talked about, this Arkansas team has a lot of those traits themselves. And you saw it. I'm sure you were there. You saw the athleticism on display. It's a very athletic team, but you know what? Here's a little secret for people. So's Michigan State. And you saw that show up tonight too. I did not feel watching that game that Arkansas would be able to out-athlete Michigan State. I don't think so. Not in any meaningful way. Michigan State has athletes. But I think where we should start is, to me, what was not only the key to this win, but perhaps the most important thing for the near future of this team. And that is the play of the two freshmen, Cam Ward and Jordan Scott.
Were they good?
Well, here's a way to put it. And I don't think any objective party could disagree with this statement. Arkansas has two of the supposedly best freshmen in the country in Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas. And I thought you understand why when you watch those guys play.
They look good, yeah.
They got limited. They were made to play very inefficient games offensively, but you see the talent. It's clear.
Oh, yeah. No question.
But Michigan State had the better freshman combo on the floor tonight. I'm not saying Michigan State's guys are better NBA prospects. I'm not saying they're going to have better seasons. Tonight, Cam Ward and Jordan Scott were better than Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas. Now, it's hard to do that comparison because they all play different positions, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Yeah.
But in terms of impact on the game, on winning, Michigan State's guys were better. I made a terrible mistake while I was waiting for us to start this, and I turned on the Field of 68 for about 3 minutes, and then I had to shut it off. And I heard dummy Goof Goodman say, well, you got to remember Arkansas is two freshmen, or, they so much goes through them. I'm like, wait a minute. Jordan Scott played 25 minutes tonight. I didn't even look what Cam played. It had to be
22
neighborhood.
Yeah. 22, yeah, right.
So who's kidding who? Michigan State had two freshmen out there too playing tons of minutes, and they just played better. So Cam Ward, I think the rebounding and the defense we've known is there. We've talked about it, right? So I'm not going to say 10 rebounds and solid defense is not a surprise. I wouldn't have guessed 10 rebounds coming into the game, but we know that Cam's capable of doing that. I think 18 points in this kind of matchup, and the way he did it, here's the bad news for the Big Ten. Michigan State's got another guy who can do work in the post. I did not know, and we had not seen it really in the two exhibitions and the opener, that Cam Ward is at that stage in terms of his post-game development. But it's there. He was a monster physically.
Yeah.
Absolute monster. Competitive, attacking. I mean, I lost track of how many dunks he had.
I think about 5.
Probably. That sounds about right. Because he was getting loose repeatedly.
Yeah, he was shooting well.
But I think the guy who, and look, Cam was their best player tonight. I think in terms of overall, he's the guy. I mean, Jeremy Fears had a great floor game, which we'll talk about, but Cam Ward was the guy. But I think if you're looking at overall importance to where the team can go, it's possible that Jordan Scott's game was even more impressive and important, because we see once again, Michigan State is suffering from some issues at the 2 guard. Trey Fort does enough to make you believe that he can be an answer at that position. The trouble is it's coming just in limited spurts. He hit a big 3, the only made 3 of the night, hit an early jumper mid-range off the glass, which was really pretty. And every time he's on the floor, I'm waiting for him to do something offensively, because he just has that look and feel to him. He's not getting enough done offensively right now. Tonight, some of that was due to minutes. And Kurtang, obviously, 0 for 2, only played 6 minutes, did not start. That's worth mentioning.
Sure.
Izzo went to the hook a little quicker, but you know what's funny? Trey Fort got the start tonight, which is, great for him. And I think he probably in the long run, I expect him to be that guy. But Jordan Scott started the second half, and maybe not. Maybe it is Jordan Scott.
I wonder if it is going to be.
I'm not gonna. If somebody wants to argue that, I'm not arguing. The only reason.
Well, I mean, it might be a couple weeks, right? But I think it probably. I think that's where things are ending up. But we'll see.
Yeah, and it's not crazy because you saw tonight, and we've been talking about it since the exhibition game. Well, since the UConn game at least, and then it was true against Colgate, and it was ultra true tonight. Jordan Scott was just a man out there. He had 7 rebounds. This is a guy who, remember, the concern was, is he going to be strong enough? Well, I think I said this in the Colgate game. That's been asked and answered now.
Now, for sure.
Tonight just solidified that even further, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Made some, contributed a little on offense. What do you have, 6 points? Enough to where, you're getting the kind of he had 6 points. Made some really nice. There was one play where he cut. I believe it was Cooper that found him on a cut at the rim. Really smart, intelligent play. So he contributed there. Defensively, we talked about it. He's whatever he is, 6'8", 6'7" now, 6'10" wingspan.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought tonight, I think Michigan State's defense overall was really good. Huge improvement.
Yeah.
I have a couple comments about that once we get done talking about these two freshmen. But I thought Jordan was really solid there. Thought it was disruptive. I thought he was on time. I thought he was together. He wasn't exploited at all, which you worry about with a freshman. That they're not ready for certain things they might see and they get taken advantage of. Did not happen. And then again, I go back to the rebounding. And he just has a knack. We've already seen it. He has a knack for being in the right place at the right time. And that's something in his high school career, he obviously was the man, especially the last couple years.
Right.
But at Michigan State, at least for right now, he's playing a very different role than he's playing. That's something people don't always appreciate about freshmen. They're almost all, at this level at least, coming from situations where they were the star to most of the time, usually they gotta just be a cog in the machine. They got to fill a role. And sometimes that transition takes a while. Jordan Scott, it's clear it's not going to take any time at all because he just has a knack for being Johnny on the spot, right place, right time. He did it on one of the buckets he scored was off a missed jumper that he just happened to be in the right spot around the rim, grabbed it, laid it in. That play late, now he didn't follow through with the made free throws, but Johnny on the spot to get that loose ball and then drew the foul and missed the 2 free throws, unfortunately. But again, right place, right time. He's got a nose for the ball, and that's one of those things I don't think can be taught. You either have it or you don't. There's a sense that some guys have of knowing where the ball's going to be just a little bit quicker than everybody else. And I've seen enough to think that he's one of those guys. So that's a big deal because if Michigan State does not, let's assume Trey Fort kind of raises his consistency, his level of play a bit. They still need help back there.
Oh, yeah.
And Kurtang right now has not given you signs that he's ready to step in and be that second guy in the rotation. Jordan Scott, at a minimum, is showing you that. And as we were just discussing, it's possible he might be a starter. And soon. I mean, he's already started a half, so we're partway there. Yeah. But just so impressed by those guys in that kind of setting, because, it's a home game, but still, your nerves, all of that. This was different than Colgate. And to step up against that kind of opponent, this kind of situation on Fox, and deliver the way they did, man, it's been a long time since we've seen two freshmen look like that.
Yeah.
And I just mean how much a part of it they are and how trustworthy they are. When I see those guys on the floor now, I'm not worried.
They
I
don't
get
look
worried
lost.
with some guys.
Yeah,
I'll
right.
be honest. I think most of us do. Not those two. They're going to make mistakes. I mentioned Jordan missed those 2 free throws. He won't miss free throws in a situation like that ever again. I'd bet the house on it. That guy's going to hit some big free throws this year. And that's the thing with him. Just wait until the shot starts dropping because we know he has that.
Yeah, right.
That hasn't shown up yet. When that comes, woo, look out.
Yeah, Kenshu made an interesting comment. So he said, "What would have happened had Cooper not gotten those 2 quick fouls, which forced
It's a
Ward
very
into the
good
game
point.
early?" I mean,
it's a very good point because I thought that was, even with sitting almost the entirety of the first half, I thought that was Carson Cooper's best game of the season, including
he
the
was great in the second half
by a long shot.
Yeah, he was really
good.
You
know, the pick and roll stuff for the lobs at the rim, that's all great, and he'll do that, and that matters. Getting some production out of him. He hit a mid-range jumper. That was good to see. But the defense, you saw, it's not an accident that Michigan State held them under 30% from the floor in the second half, whereas Arkansas was above 40% in the first half.
Yeah.
One big reason why, not the only reason, but one big reason why, Carson Cooper's out there in the second half. And that's going to make life a lot tougher, not just on Arkansas's bigs, but on their guards, because as we know, playing pick and roll defense, that is one of his strengths. And I was really impressed too. It's a good point. What would have happened if he, Arkansas can cry about Brazil not playing much, but because of foul trouble, and being limited, but Carson Cooper was limited too.
Yeah.
But I want to turn in kind of an overarching way to 2 things that we had at least raised some concerns, might be strong, but issues in the exhibition games. And then even, the Colgate game, to at least in one respect, defense and rebounding, the program staples, right? Michigan State is not good if they're not good in those 2 areas, typically. I will say this. I'm not ready to declare the defense totally fixed and ready to go mid-season form for this reason. And we talked about it in the preview. I said, Arkansas, and this is true of John Calipari's teams forever, kind of runs simpleton offense. I mean, that's a little harsh, but not really.
Yeah.
They don't run stuff the way UConn does, not even close. They don't run stuff the way Colgate does. And so I wondered, okay, yes, they've got great athletes. They've got great individual players. And sometimes, as we would see with some of his Kentucky teams, that trumps the fact that they don't run great stuff because, great players can just go make great plays. Good defense gets beat by better offense, that kind of thing. But I knew Arkansas was not going to test Michigan State mentally and focus-wise the way they were tested, even by Colgate. And so I thought this might be a game where they can get right defensively because all they've got to do essentially is square guys up. They don't have to worry about a lot of clever stuff being run that's going to result in open shots if you are not totally connected as a defense. And what did you see in this game? I think that's what we saw. Now, I'm not taking away from the job Michigan State did. That was a tremendous defensive effort, especially in the second half. You hold anybody to sub 30% in a high major game, you're playing very, very good defense. And Arkansas does have guys who can go make individual plays, despite the fact that they run kind of simple offense. But all I'm saying is for one night, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
I want to see that carry over when they're facing somebody
next
who runs
game.
better sets. What's that?
Well, I don't know about San Jose.
I don't know about San Jose State. We haven't delved into that. I do know that Kentucky under Mark Pope runs much better stuff. that will be a challenge that you and I will, for better or for worse, we'll see. Get to see live in a little over a
our
week.
track record's not so great so far.
Well, let's hope it gets broken.
That's right.
A few days from now,
people are going to stop.
They'll be challenged by that, and there will be lots. Obviously, I think many Big Ten teams run better stuff than Arkansas does. Now, not many teams have athletes and pure raw talent at Arkansas's level. So you have to factor that in. That's why I'm not dismissive at all of the defensive job Michigan State did. I'm just saying it was great tonight. I need to see it against teams that are much more challenging in terms of what they run, challenging your ability to focus, lock in, and play in a connected way. The rebounding, though, I mean, they tattooed Colgate, right?
Yeah.
We said, okay.
But that's like Colgate, whatever, right? Yeah.
This is a much bigger challenge. And Arkansas did some work on their offensive glass, as we said they would. They were in mid-30s, I think, offensive
39, 38, 39%.
Was it that high?
It was.
Okay.
They got a lot off free throws. I think it was like 3 or 4 off.
Michigan State broke 50%.
It was insane. 53.
And that is what we had said in the preview. And honestly, I'm not bothered by the defensive rebounding. I'm really not. Because that is a very good offensive rebounding team that I think emphasizes it. Cal's teams at Kentucky were usually pretty good in that way. This one, I think, is going to be. They were great in their opener. I think based on what I saw tonight, there's no reason to think they're not going to be very good once again. They've got athletes. They've got some length. They play hard. So you're going to give some stuff up. But Michigan State didn't let it get ridiculous.
Yeah.
And on the offensive end, Michigan State drilled them. Yeah. Absolutely drilled them. You put up a plus 50% rebounding rate against any high major team. Doesn't matter, Northwestern, Iowa, Ole Miss, whoever. That's doing a tremendous amount of work. You do it against a team like that, even better.
Yeah.
And it was team-wide. You know, we talked about Cam Ward having 10 rebounds. But they had 3 other guys, Michigan State, have 7 apiece. That's getting it done.
Yeah.
Jordan Scott, Jackson Kohler, and Cohen Carr.
Cohen Carr, yeah.
All with 7. That's especially Cohen and Jordan getting it from wings, huge deal. So it was great to see those 2 elements show up. And if that stays consistent, and now that they've, since the last 12 minutes or so of the UConn game, I think this team has found out, rediscovered, however you want to put it, depends on the guy, I guess, the effort level they need to bring. There's no reason that they can't continue. I'm not saying they're going to put up plus 50% offensive rebounding rates all year, of course.
Right.
But they can do the things that we saw tonight from a toughness effort perspective all year long. And that's going to make them hard to beat. There are negatives right now with this team. I'm not saying they're perfect by any means. And we all know what they are. It's shooting the deep shot. And I think, although I feel slightly better about the free throw line tonight, there's still work to be done there.
Yep.
But, man, you play that hard with that much force and intensity and toughness, that is going to cover up a lot of warts. I'm telling you, we see it every year from teams around the country, and we usually see it from Michigan State. And it looks like this group has got that.
Yeah. So let's talk about some other contributors to the game. I think Cohen Carr is a good one. He had a great first half, limited by foul trouble in the second half. And what I appreciate about his game is he didn't force it too much. He picked his spots. He had some really good assists, some good passes in the interior to help set other players up as well. That him getting to if he gets a baseline, you're just dead. I mean, it's crazy how fast he is. Yeah. And I was real impressed with this game. I hope, obviously, the shooting's got to come around at some point, and I think that will. But again, I don't think either of us think he needs to hit like 3 threes a game.
No,
if he puts one or two in a game at most, that's probably plenty to keep people honest, because he was a little easier to guard at the second half, but he was able to feed other players and he did not force it. He was comfortable at least doing something rather than just kind of dribbling in a circle. Like I remember a couple years ago, it seemed like they were always dribbling in the perimeter, like around the, and they were not making any action towards the basket, forcing the defense to do anything. And he at least would force them to react a little bit.
That's the AJ Hogarth show.
Right. It wasn't the dribbling
anyway.
around.
Yeah, I agree. I think this was his best overall game so far, again, counting exhibitions. Why do I say that? Because he did all of that stuff you talked about offensively. He didn't force things. He was lethal around the rim. Hit his free throws. Got back on the beam. What was he, 3 for 4? Got back on the beam there. But his defense, which, coming into the season, I felt this is the guy who's got a chance to be a stopper. We know Fears is, but you need somebody else in that perimeter group to join him. And Cohen was the obvious choice. He had flashes of it last year. I thought he was good, not consistently great last year, but good. Had some great moments. The game he had against Ace Bailey against Rutgers was a great moment. And that showed, I think, the ceiling of what he can be as a defender. But tonight, excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
Thought he was really, really good and on it. And so to me, you put that together with 7 rebounds, which I believe is his best rebounding game thus far. What did he have? 15 points?
Yeah, he was 7 of 8 from the line, for the game.
Yeah, 7 of 8. Yeah. I was way off.
Yeah, he had him in the half. Yeah, that was in the half.
That's fantastic.
No, he was fantastic. And he was so
as
good.
You say, he showed great, that was a mature game from him. He didn't get sucked into trying to prove he can hit jumpers. He didn't force action that led to a bunch of turnovers. He picked his spots where he had advantages to press that advantage and made plays. And as you say, that's another point. He's limited to however long he sat in the second half. It seemed like it was about 7 or 8 minutes.
But they were okay without him. That's what was so impressive.
That's Cam Ward.
Yeah.
Give a lot of that to Cam Ward, which was also the case, Cam Ward, in the first half, why they didn't miss Carson as much as they might have otherwise. But I think that, what I'm saying is with him missing that playing time, how much more productive would he have been if he'd played that? He might have had the best game of his career, because I kind of think he was on track for that. But still, really solid, very happy with his play. And look, you get a guy playing like that, that's an all Big Ten kind of player right there, which is what we thought his ceiling was this year.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, JT dropped us some change, actually. Thanks a lot, JT. Appreciate it. He mentioned great win for Scott and Ward. Could be special. I think that's the understatement. I think these guys are already special, and I think we're expecting a lot more out of them. And let's talk about someone who gave us quite a bit too in this game, Jeremy Fears. I mean, aside from being so, Jeremy, I think it's fair to say he didn't have a great game. He had a very good game. Great game. He would have hit some of those layups. I mean, he missed everything. So he missed that front end of the 1-on-1. He missed from an offensive standpoint. He did make some plays, but other than that, I mean, his ability to sort of just control things and I think just controlling the emotion and really using the emotion within the Breslin Center. I mean, he's a guy who is going to get the ism going all the time. I think that's pretty clear. And he will let it, he knows it helps his team and he feeds off it. And so he was much more in control. You see that those instances where I think he's gotten in trouble in the past, where he's gotten technical fouls. He's able to kind of just walk on the edge, and I think he knows where the edge is a lot better than he has in the past. And then I was just point out to my wife a couple times, he is so good. And we talked about this in the past, at just forcing players to foul him. He'll be racing on the court. He'll stop suddenly because he knows the guy's right on his hip and just the guy, run over him.
Yep.
He's just good at just causing that contact. I mean, he's also good at exaggerating as well, but he was just really good in every aspect of the game, I thought, aside from his shooting.
Yeah. You were there, so I want to ask you first before we get into the rest of Jeremy's game. I was under the impression from some stuff I saw on social media. We saw a little bit of it on the television broadcast, but not everything. The sense I got is that he spent almost that entire game talking to Arkansas, as well as his own teammates. and that he really got under people's skins. In fact, I heard he got shoved in the handshake line.
Oh, really?
Did you see it? Yeah.
So I left with 0.4 seconds left
during the game. Did you see that? I mean, you would see moments on screen, like if somebody else was shooting a free throw, you'd see Jeremy talking, and it seemed obvious. Yeah. So he was doing it the whole game.
Yes. I mean, I would say this, Jeremy is always talking. And so I can't always know for sure where he's talking, like who he's talking to. But yeah, I mean, the guy never stops. He never shuts up. I don't,
I think that I've come to this conclusion tonight, actually. I think he's fitting squarely between Mateen Cleaves and Draymond Green on that spectrum, just in that aspect of the game. Here's what I mean. Mateen Cleaves was everybody remembers, I'm sure, a very, very vocal presence.
Yeah.
But especially as he got later in his career, less so talking to the opponent. He didn't do a ton of that, if you remember back. Draymond Green, we know, and has just continued in the NBA, is always talking. He'll talk to his teammates too, but he's getting under the skin of opponents. He's always done that. Jeremy has that to him. He's also a leader for his team, so he's going to be vocal toward his own guys. But I don't mind that. I like that. I like having a guy that's an irritant. He can be the combination of irritant and leader for his own team. That's a great combination. I thought tonight, look, the 0 for 7 from the floor, yeah, he's got to finish better. We all know that. Do not care, at least not tonight. He played an outstanding floor game. There were a couple of moments he'd like back, but for the most part, what was it? 9 assists, 3 turnovers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's this guy is getting it done. You mentioned, the aimless dribbling around the perimeter of 2 years ago. We don't see that very much anymore.
No.
Why?
Well,
because of the guy at the point.
When he's not on the floor, I would say we do feel like I was gonna say when he's not on the floor, there's a little bit of that.
Yes.
There's just like a matter of surviving, but you can go on that.
We can get into that in a bit. You're absolutely right. And he's got to be exhausted because of how much was asked of him tonight. Defensively, look, Darius Acuff is a great talent. We spent a lot of time talking about it in the pregame. Yep. I think you saw enough flashes of it tonight, if you weren't familiar with his game before tonight, to understand why he's seen as a lottery pick type player, one and done, all of that. 5 for 16, 5 for 15.
Yeah, he was 5 for 16. 2 for 8
5
from
for
3.
16 from the floor.
Yep.
You know who's responsible for most of that? The guy wearing number 1.
Yep.
That's who. Acuff outscored him. That's it. Jeremy Fears outplayed him.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Acuff, there were 2 critical moments involving him down the stretch in that game, which I want to talk about. One, the reason I'm bringing it up here is it involved Jeremy. That play where the shot clock's running out and Jeremy baited him into fouling him on a 3.
Yeah.
That was classic veteran versus rookie. Classic. Darius Acuff won't make those mistakes later on, probably even later on this season. But he made it tonight, and that's the difference. It's the difference between a guy who's been there before, who knows what he's doing, and a guy who's just starting to find out. And Acuff's got tremendous ability, but that kind of stuff, you got to get your reps, usually, before you get that figured out. The other moment, and I do not understand this. I guess I should say I only understand it from the perspective of, well, that's how Arkansas has practiced it, so that's how they do it. 4 seconds left. Arkansas has the ball on the baseline, down 3. So their last gasp. Yeah. They have Acuff inbounding. I did not understand that.
But isn't that where, I mean, there are lots of plays where you lose the inbounder. I mean, I think that's probably what I feel like that's oftentimes happens.
Except You're really limited on that because you only have 4 seconds.
Right. It's got to get back to you right away.
And it's only going to work if Michigan State completely breaks down.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be what they were thinking. I tend to think it's more likely that Acuff is just the inbound guy right now. That's how they practiced it. But if that's the case and you're Cal, you got to adjust because he's one of your 2 only reliable 3-point shooters on that team. I mean, Richmond hit one tonight. He was a terrible shooter last year. Brazil was okay last year. He was solid. Didn't do much tonight. I really think they sacrificed something and gave Michigan State a little bit of a gift on that last possession by not putting Acuff in the game out of the floor rather as a shooter.
Right. Yeah.
Just 4 seconds. It's just hard to get the ball back to him. Like the only way it would work is if it's bang, bang. If Michigan State completely loses him and he gets loose, that's the only way.
Yeah.
Because the possession's not going to last long enough for him to inbound it and then get the ball back otherwise. So I would be curious about that. I'm going to guess, knowing the media the way I do, nobody asked him, Calipari. But I would be really curious to know why. Because I think that was a mistake. He let Michigan State have a little bit of an advantage there that he didn't necessarily have to.
Yeah.
By the way, I think it's Michigan State sometimes. They've got Jeremy doing a lot of inbounding. Not, that last possession, they had Jeremy inbounding. I really wondered, especially after he got the first ball deflected, the first try at it, and they took 0.3 of a second off the clock. He had a 6'10" guy on him. To me, put Carson Cooper there. You know, but Michigan State, Jeremy being the guy who they trust from a decision-making point of view, I get it.
Exactly.
It's just, I think there are other aspects that maybe come into play situationally that you should at least think about, but whatever. It's not I don't have wins or losses at the collegiate level, so take my comments for what they're worth, which is
what? I don't think you're 84-1 in November, right?
No.
At the Brussels.
No. But that was getting back to Jeremy, though, it's the understatement of the century to say they don't win that game without him. But you see what a difference. I always use this term force multiplier. If you've got a great point guard, a real point guard, not a guy who goes out there and can shoot and score, but who actually leads your team, runs it the way it needs to be run, man, it makes everybody else better. It's just funny how that happens. So,
yeah. You do not have a good track record when it comes to the Beat Rod contest and ranking the Big Ten teams 1 through 18. Your NCAA tournament predictions have not been great, but
I was all right last year.
No, you're okay.
I was pretty good.
But I would say you have been 100%, maybe 110% spot on with your evaluation of Jeremy Fears before he even came to campus. I mean, your prediction of what he was going to be has been, exactly correct.
If you saw him play in high school, you saw it. I did. I saw him play at La Lu, and then I saw him play for his high school in Joliet. And it was obvious then. And it was obvious how badly Michigan State wanted him. They accepted a commitment from him as a junior. You saw it. And, I still maintain some of the other stuff, the jump shooting, finishing at the rim, that stuff's going to get better. I'm convinced of it.
Right.
But, man, tonight should be Exhibit A for what's the most important stuff with Jeremy Fears and what's the stuff that would be great to have and you hope gets added, but isn't as important in the greater scheme of things. Exhibit A tonight.
Yep, exactly. Well, JT had another super chat question here. So is the Kurtang experience dead? Doesn't seem to have it. And I would just get, is it Sapir Brooks? I think it's way too early at this point. I think there's, I think it's what I'll say, because I feel like he was very, very limited role last year, but I felt like he looked like a different player. He just feels like he's forcing it to me. And, but I guess again, I think it's too early, but I do think it's the competition's there at that position and getting time for minutes. It's gonna be hard.
Yeah, it will. Look, I think there's still and I know the shooting hasn't been dialed in just yet, although his season stats, the 2 games that count, are not terrible.
But the rest of the team, maybe.
I would say on a team that's struggling to shoot the deep shot, you should not be looking to call it early on Kerr.
Right. Yeah.
But as you say, the competition's getting stiffer because Jordan Scott has loudly announced his arrival. And as I say, I think everybody or most everybody has got to be convinced there's a lot more to come from Trey Fort. And so, and the interesting thing tonight, Kerr played 6 minutes. Divine Ugochukwu played some. It wasn't just strictly backing Jeremy up. He played some with Jeremy. And in fact, played late. He was part of that. They got Jordan Scott back in the game eventually, but Divine was in there at the under 4 for some of that. That tells you something. The lineups that Michigan State played down the stretch were very telling. And what it tells you is this. There's a handful of guys that Tom Izzo has more confidence in defensively right now, because that's always, and especially the situation being what it was where they had a lead. Yeah. He's going to emphasize, but he's always going to emphasize defense. So that tells you those are guys that he trusts. In fairness to Kerr, with Arkansas's exceptional athleticism, maybe not the best matchup for him. He's not always going to be going against guys like that. So is there a chance that it might look different against San Jose State? Yeah. Or other games this year? Yeah. I don't want to bury him too quickly, but is it fair to say that he's got a lot of proving to do to earn a bigger role than the one he had tonight? Yep. Absolutely. Totally fair. I
agree. So anyone else to mention? I guess the one we didn't really talk about was Kohler, who had a solid game. I thought it was very funny, the one break they had where had it been Cone Carr, Jeremy would have just tossed it up and it would have been a dunk. And with Kohler, it was a catch and he jumped like 3 inches off the floor. The little Bill Laimbeer move, right? For those who are old enough to remember.
It certainly wasn't Jackson's best game, but I'll tell you what I liked. He just competed.
Yep.
I mean, Bill Rafferty on the broadcast was saying that if you remember, there was a turnover late where he got the ball in the post. He kind of over dribbled, something we used to see more from him than we have recently. Raf thought it was physical exhaustion. Might have been the case. That was a tough game because Michigan State obviously is not playing the same kind of minutes distribution that it did a year ago. And most teams are not going to look to run with them the way Arkansas did. So that was an up and down. We called it. We talked about it on the pregame. Good chance this is a game that gets played 94 feet a lot. And it did. And I think that did take something out of everybody, really.
I mean, Kohler played 31 minutes, right? I mean, that's way more than he played last year.
That's a lot. And more than you would have thought on a night where Cam Ward played so much. But the reason being, Carson Cooper was sitting for a lot of the first half.
Yeah.
So Jackson had to play maybe a lot more. I've seen some people suggest that what we're looking at in the early going seems to suggest that we're going to see a fair amount of Jackson at the 5. And I get that because Cam is playing such a big role. Jesse McCullough isn't playing as much yet, but that's still something that we've yet to see Michigan State have to operate against a truly dominant big man. We're gonna see those matchups. We haven't seen it yet, but they're coming. And those are the matchups I really don't love Jackson operating at the 5. So it'll be interesting to me to see how that evolves over the course of the season. But look, again, not the most efficient game from Jackson. He missed a lot at the rim too, a lot tonight. But you know what? He found ways to contribute and he battled his ass off. I never have a question with him about the effort level and the toughness. He is going in there to go to war every single night. And I'm fine. I'm fine with the results. When a guy plays that hard and, even on nights like this where he wasn't at his most efficient, and give Arkansas some credit for that. I think their length, their athleticism probably got in his head a little bit in some of those misses around the rim, but I can live with it, man. I have no criticism. My problem with the BG exhibition game and the first 27 minutes or so of the UConn game was that they weren't playing hard enough. They've figured that out now. They just need to keep playing like this, and I'll take my chances with the results if we see that kind of effort, that kind of toughness. Jackson's a big part of that.
JT says, inject Cam Ward's enthusiasm to my veins.
Yeah.
He's a stud. Yeah.
Well, we said totally it back.
We said it when we interviewed him. If you've not
year.
seen that, go back and watch the interview we did with him.
Yeah.
That kid just oozes personality and charisma.
Yeah. But that's the thing too. I remember talking about him when he committed. I said, the thing about him is he's one of those guys that, and we found this on the interview, as you say, so charismatic, just a great kid, good sense of humor, just a bright personality, but on the court, he's an ass kicker. I remember using that phrase when we talked about him as a recruit. This is a guy who in between the lines is going to come to bury you. As the kids like to say, B to A, belt to ass. That's what Cam Ward brings. And you saw it tonight. He applied that to Arkansas, and he got the better of everybody.
Well, I don't know that we're speaking to all the millennials, but I think we're doing our best we can here, right, Rod? Should we move on to?
I think we've got through Z, but
it's funny. They got to Gen X and they didn't really know. Then they realized that, we shouldn't have started at X. We should have started a lot earlier in the alphabet. And so then they get, right. There's Y and Z.
Blame Douglas Copeland. He's the guy who wrote a book.
Is he the guy?
That off.
Gen X.
All Gen right. X. Yeah.
Is there anyone else you want to talk about, or should we just move on to?
Maybe a bit about, because you touched on.
It's about Divine.
Maybe a bit about Divine. Maybe a bit about Divine. I am with you that right now it doesn't feel great when Jeremy's off the floor. And that has to change. Now, what I'm hopeful of is that Divine's going to grow into that and feel more confident. Because it is not a physical tools issue. This isn't, I'm worried about Foster Lawyer because he gets swallowed up when people pressure him. This is not a physical tools issue with Divine. Right now, it is a confidence thing, I think. He's kind of feeling his way. But you know what should give him a boost? The fact that Tom Izzo was trusting him to play in that game late alongside Jeremy when it was winning time.
Mm-hmm.
That should be a confidence boost. And I do think we'll see improvement from him. But look, it's got to be better. It has to be better because they can't play Jeremy 35 minutes a night. Not at Michigan State. It will not work. There's some programs you can do that, not Michigan State. They ask too much of you. You're running too much. You can't do that and have anything left in the tank in February. So Divine has got to get to the point that I think he can play, 10 quality minutes a night, a 5-minute shift in each half. That's where he's got to get to. If that doesn't work, if they don't see progress, and they're going to have a long leash with that, I think, because they kind of have to. But if that doesn't work, I think probably your next attempt would be Trey Fort. And then that's kind of it. They don't have another option. This isn't last year where you had, 4 guys you could turn to. They've really got 2, maybe 2.5, depending upon how you feel about Trey Fort.
Yeah.
What I'm hoping is this. I'm hoping that Trey can gain enough defensive trust that, this is at least my thought, that they can pair him with Divine, and maybe the combination of that will be enough to get them over the hump.
2 half-point guards make one.
That at least he's got some help. He's got a secondary guy who can pitch in. It's not all on Divine. Whereas with Jeremy, I don't care who's on the floor with him. Put Carson Cooper and 3 clones out there, and I'm going to be okay. I'm exaggerating, but you get my point.
I get your point.
but they do have that matters because they can't afford to go through 5 minutes of nothing if Jeremy's off the floor. They got to get to the point that it's at least functional. We were spoiled last year. There's no doubt about that. When Jeremy was off the floor, they could turn to Trey Holloman, who was not as good a point guard as Jeremy Fears, but was good enough that you didn't feel like, oh God, how are we going to score? You never felt that way. Or Jaden Akins, never had that feeling. This team right now, you kind of feel that way. And it's exacerbated by the fact that, at least for the moment, this may be another reason to play Trey Fort in those minutes. It would feel different if you had a shooter. If you had at least one guy that you felt, all right, we need to penetrate and kick.
Yep.
And relatively simple stuff to run, but they don't have that going right now. So I think it even exacerbates it.
Yeah, I think you're right there. And well, I mean, there's no way they'll finish the season shooting 7% from three. All right. So let's move on in our show and head on over to this player to keep in the gutter, brought to you by the Brothers Just Do Gutters. So I'll give the bad news that as I was driving home today from the game, we ran into some snow on the way on I-96. It was just a very, very, very subtle flurry. I know you love snow almost as much as you love raking leaves.
We're not going to get that here until Sunday, I believe.
Yeah, no, I think Sunday's we're going to get the real snow. I think East Lansing is getting a little bit more. We're over in the west side. I guess it's a little too warm, which just means that we got the warm air coming across the lake, which means at some point we're going to get the lake effect dump on us. Right. But anyway, I think all the leaves fell within the last 3 days, like we were talking about the pregame. They're all over the place. I can tell you, I am so glad that I'm not getting from the ladder. I'm not cleaning up my gutters because I had the leaf guards put on a couple years ago. And that was a couple years ago, and they still work great. So so if you've not done that, you can have them come out and clear out the leaves for you, or you just at least have them put the leaf guards on so you don't have to do it next year or the year after that. And if you've got a tree growing in your gutter like I did, they can take that out there too, fix anything up. Whether it's your home or your business, the Brothers Just Do Gutters will take care of you whether in the east side of the west side of the state. If you're in the Upper Peninsula, you're just out of luck. So you got to do it yourself. So head on over to support page at tffinots.com/support. You get 10% off your work if you just say Final Four when you get your estimate. So player to keep in the gutter was Darius Acuff Jr. He ended up with 16 points. He was 5-16 from the field, as we mentioned before, 2 of 8 from 3, 4 for 7 from the line. He had 2 rebounds, 1 of them offensive, 6 assists to 1 turnover, a couple steals, no blocks. So he was not kept in the gutter. But he also was not, he didn't take the game over. He was definitely a threat out there, but they made him work really hard and he was very inefficient. And so I would say oh my gosh, someone just said they had an inch of snow already in Keweenaw. But, you're almost living in Canada. So what do you expect, right?
Right.
So
Good
Darius was pretty much kept gutter adjacent, right? I think we'll say that maybe.
Yeah, I would. They didn't shut him down, but I knew they weren't going to do that.
No, I mean, he's too good.
But when you make a guy like that inefficient, and they did 5 for 16 from the floor, that's doing the job. I'm impressed with the 6-to-1 assist to turnover ratio.
Yeah, no, he was very good.
But other than in a few relatively brief segments, it just never felt, Acuff had a run there in the first half where it felt like, and I'll admit it crossed my mind, like, oh boy, here it comes.
Yeah.
He's starting to find it after it'd kind of been a not great start, but then he had a run of a few minutes where it seemed like he was settling in, and then that didn't happen again. And as I said a while ago, hats off to Jeremy Fears, because Jeremy Fears had a lot. He wasn't the only guy, but he had a lot to do with it. And yeah, you didn't completely shut him down, but as you said, you didn't let him take the game over. And that, from my perspective, the biggest difference in this Arkansas team versus last year is Darius Acuff. That they have a guy who's a real point guard, but not just a point guard, also a guy who can be a massive scoring presence for them. And that's he is a difference maker. And I think if you watch that game, you saw the reason why people think that. You saw the flashes of it, but the fact that he didn't consistently bring that, that's a big credit to Michigan State.
Yeah. Well, and also Malik Thomas, the other freshman, was excellent too. I mean, same story, 16 points, but inefficient shooting, 5-15 from the field,
Right.
2 of 9 from 3. So
Right.
same story. He had the same problem. And, that's largely due to the perimeter defense, which was good for Michigan State. And then I think they got tired at the end of the game and lost their legs a little bit. So, all right. So then moving on then to, I've said this last few episodes. I really do need to get a hold of Squeegee Squad to clean my windows before I get in trouble with my wife. If we just stare out those windows too long. Anyway, I got to take care of that. So mental note to myself. Who Cleans the Glass Best, brought to you by the Squeegee Squad of Grand Rapids. They do fantastic work. They clean my house, my windows, inside, outside. They can power wash your house as well. This is a good time to get it done before the snow comes, which, it's right around the corner, obviously. Head on over to our support page at tffinots.com/support. There you can find a way to contact Troy and his team in the greater Grand Rapids area. I mean, they've gone all the way to Lansing and taking care of the state capitol window. So these guys are pros. They can do anything.
I wish we had the Squeegee Squad available to us here, because we've just moved into a new home and within the last few months. And one of the features of this home is our living room. I've got windows that are about 17 feet up.
Oh,
so I know I'm not doing it. So, yeah, those of you who are in Grand Rapids, feel very fortunate that you've got the Squeegee Squad to handle that kind of stuff for you. Because I'm left here scrambling for answers.
And I tell you what, a 17-foot ladder, not even easy to navigate in your house. I mean, that's a crazy.
This is inside. I'm talking about inside.
I know you're inside. Yeah. I know you got to get a step ladder. And I mean, I know. No. I've met you. You're not 10 feet tall, so you got to get a really pretty tall.
No way.
Tall ladder. And I just hate ladders personally. So I'm taking care of too many people falling off them as well. So contact the Squeegee Squad of Grand Rapids. They can do it for you. Get a support page, tiffnots.com/support. 15% off. You mentioned Final Four. All right. So the competition was you had Kohler and Carr. I had Cooper, and I went off the board and picked Scott, who turned out to be a pretty good choice. We both had the opportunity to pick Ward. We both turned it down.
Yeah.
So you finished with 14. I ended up with 9 because Cooper had only two rebounds, partly because he just didn't play much in the first half.
The officials dinged you on that one for sure.
I'll say this though, and I'll see what you think about this. I feel like, not that Cooper isn't a rebounder, but I feel like he is playing more on the perimeter defensively than Kohler is. And so I think he's going to have less opportunities to rebound for that reason.
Possible. Depends on the game, but you're right. I mean, there's no question. They have him, because most of your pick and roll action tends to involve the 1 and the 5. So he's guarding the 5. It's not that Jackson's never on the perimeter, especially as they have matchups which they will, with teams that have true stretch 4s. He's going to be pulled away from the rim too. But I think overall you might have a point there.
Yeah. All right. So moving on then to the 5 keys of the game, brought to you by Nudge Printing. Before that, real quick, JT dropped some more change our way and asked about Taylor and his expectation for next Friday. I think we can say
where he's going to go.
So
who he's committing to?
Can you give?
There's no question. Who he's committing?
Can you give opinion on screen and what that means? So we're not going to go into what it means right now. We will go into that. We're going to have a special show when he commits. So we'll go into that in more detail. But I think it's safe to say we're 99.9 to 400 digits or something sure that he's going to be.
I have a 4-word response for Michigan State fans. You should feel good.
There you go, JT. Hopefully that makes you feel better. I know I do. So, all right, let's go on to the 5 keys of the game, brought to you by Nudge Printing. This is a reminder that Nudge Printing has right now, if you go to their website, free wallpaper. That's right. You just go to nudgeprinting.com/free. You can go free and you can get, I think they're like 5, 6, maybe 7 different wallpapers you can get for your phone. It's not the stuff that goes in your wall. So it's actually more useful. So you can head over there. You can download those and get those for free. Also, you can, as you may see on the screen here, there's a Tom frickin' Izzo sweatshirt giveaway for just our fans. So that means you go to nudgeprinting.com/win. go there, just enter. All you have to just enter for free to get into the random drawing for nudge printing for that sweatshirt. So I don't know how many people are going to enter. So, you might be one of only like 10. So if so, good chances of winning. And I'm wearing one of the nudge printing sweatshirts right now. They are super comfortable. Actually, it's not even that thick, but I'm pretty hot.
It looks great. Yeah.
I mean, it's fantastic. The only thing I'd say is it's not quite white. My wife's like, it's not white. It's ash white, but it looks pretty white. I think I didn't have a single person complain that I was not
on a television camera. That's white.
Yeah. No one gave me a hard time in the whiteout. I fit in just fine. So, but fantastic stuff, super high quality screen printing. And I can't say enough about this stuff. So you want to win this sweatshirt for sure. So just enter for free at nudgeprinting.com/win. And then if you want to get the 20% off, if you're going to order something there, don't forget to type in TIFNOTS. That's new code TFFINOTS at checkout. All right. So first key of the game are, do I have them wrong this time? Did I do it again? I think I did. Perimeter defense is the first one.
Not it.
Man,
Hold on.
It's not even the exhibition season, right? It's perimeter defense. I got the sheet in front of me. So
wow.
I know, rough. The team brought it today, but I didn't. Yeah. So perimeter defense is number one, and I think there's no question here that they did a great job. There was really not that much. We were more worried about the penetration than we were the 3-point shooting, and it sure looks like their penetration defense was really good.
Well, here's the thing. Arkansas did attempt 23 free throws. Acuff, let me look at their guards. So 11, 13, 17 of the 23 attempts came from guards. So you could say they did a decent job in terms of forcing the issue. But this is a team that I think has the potential to be very good in that way. And they didn't shoot 35.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, there. 3-point shooting, 7 for 28, 25%. That's great. But then you look at the efficiency of those guards. Acuff was 5 for 16. It means he was only 3 for 8 on twos. Okay. Right. Solid job. DJ Wagner was solid. He was 2 for 2 on twos. That was a weird game for him because he had an impact early and then he just kind of disappeared, I felt.
Yeah, it wasn't like he wasn't playing. I think he played plenty of minutes. Yeah, 31 minutes. He was out there the whole time.
And then Malik Thomas was 3 for 6 on twos. But they didn't – I think the biggest thing was what I feared is that we were going to see 3 different things happening. One would be Arkansas guards getting to the rim and finishing. 2 would be Arkansas guards regularly getting into the paint, drawing fouls. And 3, we'd regularly see Arkansas guards getting into the lane and then kicking out for open threes. We didn't see a lot of any of those things. It was a night and day better performance defensively from what we've seen at any point this year, including the 2 exhibition games.
Yeah, right.
As I said toward the outset, I think there were reasons for that weren't solely about Michigan State being better. Some of it had to do with what Arkansas does, and it's easier for a team still trying to find itself in terms of connectivity to handle. But I'm also not going to apologize for it. Michigan State did exactly what they needed to do here.
Yeah.
And so definite check.
All right. So the second key to the game is the glass. Well, I mean, after Colgate, we weren't sure what was going to happen, if this is a real thing or just like a mirage. They had a 45-33 edge overall in the rebounding. And then when it comes to offensive rebounding, 19 offensive rebounds on 36 misses, I believe. So it's a 53% offensive rebounding rate, which is insanely high. As we already talked about. Arkansas had 13 offensive rebounds for 38%. But I think 3 or 4 of those came off of free throws, which is actually really disappointing. I mean, that's like the one place that shouldn't happen. I mean, I feel like they scored on most of those too. But anyway, that was, if there's one like negative defensive rebounding, they're pretty solid except for those free throws, which is weird.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's going to give Izzo something to harp on.
No doubt.
That should not happen. But, again, it's indicative of the game. Arkansas plays hard. And when you've got athletic guys that play hard, it's 40 minutes of challenge that you're dealing with. You can't relax on the free throw line.
Right.
Against that team. You can't do it. But yeah, you're right. I mean, you take those away and it would have been an even more dominant performance from Michigan State. But just, you can't say enough. As I say, even the defensive glass, normally you'd say, boy, giving up a 38% rate to the other team, not doing the job. You'd like better, don't get me wrong. But that, I'm going to guess, I don't know this for sure yet, obviously, but I'm going to guess that might not be the best rebounding team they play, but it's going to be one of the better rebounding teams they face. And so I kind of expected we'd see somewhere in the 30s. So it didn't surprise me. What I didn't know was, can Michigan State really take advantage at the other end? And they did in spades. Yeah. And so the fact that they had a dominating offensive rebounding performance. I mean, they were over 50% against Colgate too, weren't they?
Oh, yes, easily. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's 2 straight games. You might not see, more than 2. If they had 3 more performances like that the rest of the year, I'd consider that pretty good.
Yeah.
You don't see that. And against a team with that kind of lineup, you really don't see it. But that was where, if you want to point to one area where Michigan State just decisively won, and as a result won the game, start there.
Oh yeah. Well, they lose by 15 without those offensive rebounds.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, without a doubt. All right. So the third key to the game, not looking at the screen, is free throw line. Michigan State was 69%. They were actually almost up to 80%, and then they missed a bunch at the end. I mean, Jeremy missed 1 of those 3. Yep. Jordan Scott missed both his pair to ice the game, and but I think the positive things, the things that were concerning, were corrected. You have Carson Cooper, who goes 3 for 4. Then you have Cone Carr 7 for 8 from the line, and those are the ones that especially Carr is going to get fouled a ton. We know that, and so him being effective at the line is good. Ward missed his first 2, then hit his second 2. He finally hit a free throws, and Jordan Scott hit his first 2. So I do think it's going to be okay. Will they be as good as they were last year? I don't know. With time, we'll tell.
But asking a lot.
I think this could be a mid-70s team pretty easily. I think that's pretty reasonable, 75, 76, maybe even %. But we'll have to see how it plays out here.
I would be able to live with something on the plus side of 70. Anything after that, I would consider to be gravy. But we'll see. I don't disagree that could I see it becoming a 75-ish kind of team? Yeah, but I need to see it happen. There was progress here, not massive progress, because as you say, it would have been massive progress, except they didn't hit some pretty big ones late.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that. Somebody on the Spartan Mag board pointed out, said, is it almost a bonus and a good thing that Jordan Scott misses 2 in that situation in a game they still win? Because you get to learn the lesson, but it didn't cost you a win. And maybe so. I have no shortage of confidence in that kid. And I think he'll prove to be an excellent free throw shooter as his career unfolds. So I'm not worried about him. But you're right. The big news in this one, Cohen Carr going 7 for 8. That's why I would consider it a positive, because that's the guy, along with Fears, that you would expect to generate the most opportunities, along with maybe Jackson Kohler, who didn't get there tonight, I don't think. But that's a big deal after his struggles to date. And he looked good. He looked like he did at the end of last year. Yeah. Yep. He looked nice arc. I mean, I don't know what was going on, but he seemed to have solved it for tonight. So let's hope that continues.
I assume it's back and he's okay, but
just
because
we just want to see it. See a string of these, and then we can exhale.
I'm always much more encouraged when people hit them in big games because I'm like, okay, this is more
Very true.
realistic,
Very
more
true.
real than,
Yep.
All right. So the fourth key of the game was transition. Michigan State was outscored in fast break points 14-18 in this category. And it was a weird game that way because I felt like from a transition standpoint, Michigan State was definitely pushing the ball more, but they had a couple turnovers that led to some easy, the turnovers for touchdowns. And they did have a couple where they were like off misses down low. I think they just kind of pulled Michigan State on Michigan State and they just kind of ran down real quick and scored. So it was sort of a combination of both of those things. But I do think Michigan State's transition game, especially the first half. Second half, they didn't do much, but the first half, they definitely had it going.
Yeah, I think it was 12-12 at halftime. So neither team got a lot done in the second half in transition, but I'm with you. I actually saw most of what I needed to see from MSU offensively in its transition game. I was okay with that. I had hoped maybe a little bit more production, but 14's okay. The disappointing thing was what they gave up. They're not used to seeing that because teams don't typically want to run with them.
Yeah.
And I think they did get caught. Now, on the broadcast, Raf felt that there was a flurry where Arkansas had a couple of those.
Yeah.
Where it wasn't the turnovers, it was the missed shots and then leak outs. And he felt Michigan State was a little tired because I think it came late in the first half. And maybe he had a point. But I also think it was just they're not used to teams trying to do that against them.
Yeah.
And so the floor balance wasn't great, because they don't usually worry about that. They're more concerned. We know this. They're going to send guys to the glass, and they don't typically worry about that resulting in getting beaten down the floor, but it did tonight. So maybe a little bit of a negative overall because Arkansas did outscore them on the break. But I also think it was kind of circumstantial that happened. And in terms of what we usually worry about, which is MSU looking to push pace consistently, I think they did that.
Yeah. All right. So the fifth and final key to the game was the vets. And this is how do Carr, Kohler, Cooper, and to some extent Fears, who is a vet, even though he's a sophomore.
Third year though.
Third year. Yeah. Right. Redshirt sophomore. I think there's no question they showed up, and you had the front line defense from Kohler and Cooper, I think was really good. And then you had, of course, Jeremy doing Jeremy stuff, and Carr was really good when he was in the game.
They got what they needed from those guys.
Yeah.
None of them played a perfect game, but all four of those guys, I think, had major contributions to this win. It's funny on a night where Wood Jackson have 10-7.
Yep.
I think it was. On a night where Jackson had 10-7, you kind of come away from it thinking he was the least impactful of the four.
Right.
Truthfully. Because the way Cooper defended in the second half was outstanding.
Yeah.
We know what Carr did. We know what Fears did. But that's not 10-7 and you're the least impact. That's pretty good. So, really happy with all those guys. They did what your leaders, your veterans, your captains are supposed to do. So, hats off. You put that together with two freshmen playing the way those two guys did, you got something.
Yep. All right. So wrapping things up, a couple of interesting questions. So, one is an observation that I had during the game, and I'm almost certain you didn't see this on TV. So there was that play near the end of the game where the ball goes off. I think I'm guessing it went off Cooper, and there's some question whether it went through Carr or is it out of bounds play underneath the basket.
Yep. One with 4 seconds. You're talking about the one with 4 seconds left.
Okay, so that's not the one I'm talking about. That's one that was.
You talking about the one that got overturned?
Yes, that one.
Okay.
So it's interesting about that. So we know that with the replay rule now has changes here. We haven't talked about this during the show, but you actually have two challenges, or you have one challenge of the game. If you get it right, you get a second challenge. You have to have at least one timeout in order to qualify for getting a challenge. But in football, we know that there is a long lag time between plays, right? Like a play happens, there's opportunity for someone somewhere to watch the replay. In basketball, there's just no time for this.
Right.
And so right after that play, someone sitting behind I don't know who it is, one of the assistant coaches, he's got his laptop out. I'm sure he's watching the game or something on the laptop, probably watching the feed on TV. Just madly trying to like do something. And I think trying to figure out if they should challenge, because like in baseball, you'll see that the manager waits and listens like, okay, yep, someone says I should challenge, the runner but you don't have time in basketball. I mean, Izzo's got to make like basically a split second decision. He has to rely on the players or whatever. Now he just called a timeout, and then he got the word from the assistant that, why don't we challenge it? Maybe we'll get our timeout back, which is what they end up doing. But it'll be interesting, sort of that aspect of the game now, because that is something totally new and you just don't really have in real time. It's just going to be like a complete hunch that you try and get those things reversed.
Yeah. That's good stuff. No, did not see that on the screen. So that is very interesting. And you're right. You're going to have to take, well, you saw he took the second challenge, which I got to tell you, I'm trying to be as objective as possible. I thought it went off Arkansas with 4 seconds left, the one that they lost.
Yeah.
But what that would have meant, by the way, and I'm not sure whether this was something you were aware of, because they lost that one, that meant in overtime they wouldn't have a challenge left either.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
So you lose it, it's for the whole game. So there is a real risk, though, as you say, involved in doing it, and there's not a lot of time to make a decision as to whether you're going to challenge or not. You don't have the benefit of those 30 seconds, 40 seconds you have in football.
Right, between plays, yeah.
Right. Or baseball, where they literally, you see them, managers usually put the hand up.
Right. Yeah.
Until they feel like they've got enough. So it's a different deal. But I thought the first one was properly overruled. As I say, I thought the second one actually should have been Michigan State ball. Ended up not mattering, but it's going to be challenging for guys to deal with that. Here's an interesting thing though. On the first one, you're saying that they had somebody scrambling, trying to get Izzo's attention to
no, he was trying to look on his computer. He was trying to figure out if they should challenge it. He was like on his laptop. It's like trying to, but I mean, there's just no time. There's no way he can do it. They just don't have the technology or whatever,
The broadcast team, and I don't recall whether this was accurate or not, but the broadcast team thought he did it because he was, I was on the Michigan State side, sideline. They thought he was on the Izzo was on the baseline and that he actually saw it. I don't know whether that was the case or not, but that's what they said. So anyway, interesting.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, Jay McKay, the crazy guy who lives up in the UP. I shouldn't say you're crazy, but I know you love living up there. God bless you.
God's country, right?
Yeah. He made a point. He thinks Michigan State's playing better at the start of the year this year than they were last year at the start of the year. And I think the first game and a half or exhibition games, I think we both thought, they weren't very good last year. They're not look great this year. Now, of course, we saw how the end of the year was, but boy, now I think you have to kind of question whether maybe they are looking better than they were last year, even though they have some, shootings even worse than last year, but I don't know.
Well, look, it's guesswork to an extent right now. If you're trying to compare this Arkansas team to Kansas last year. And it's also true, which we haven't mentioned, of course, Michigan State had a big advantage tonight, right? They played at home.
Yeah, they're at home.
That can't be forgotten.
Yeah.
And how the crowd on TV seemed pretty live. Was it good?
Oh yeah, it was very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
That kind of makes it difficult. But I will say, all that understood, there's a point to be made that this game was better played by Michigan State than last year's game against Kansas. Because the thing about that game was Kansas wasn't great either in that game. They just were better than Michigan State, and they won relatively comfortably. Mm-hmm. This was clearly a better performance by MSU.
Yeah.
Than that game. So if that's what that listener is referencing, yeah, that might be accurate. But I think there's a lot, again, it was at home. We don't know yet what Arkansas is going to be. As it turns out, that Kansas team that MSU lost to was not very good.
Yeah.
They were an 8 seed, I believe, in the tournament. It was arguably the worst team of Bill Self's tenure. I think it was. And they went out in the first round to Arkansas, actually. But we didn't know that at that time. they were a top 5 team preseason. Everybody thought they were going to be great. This Arkansas team, I think, is going to be better than that Kansas team was, maybe substantially better, but it's early. We're making a guess there too.
Yeah,
so
right.
I think there's reason to be optimistic that maybe that listener is right, but we're not going to be able to tell just yet.
It's fair to say it's better to win this game than lose this game, right?
100%. Always.
Always feels better. Protecting home court. 84-1. So I think we'll probably wrap it up there. We're going to come back, guys, in a couple days. We'll have a preview for the San Jose State game, and then we're going to be live after the game, pretty sure. And then we're going to, at some point, have a commitment show, probably on Fridays.
We're reasonably convinced we'll be having Ethan Taylor show. Let's put it that
way. Probably on Friday.
Yes.
Yeah. After the announcement, because I think he's announcing at 1 p.m. on Friday. So one way or the other. So we'll see which hat he picks. And all Rod cares about is that it starts on time. So, more than
I don't
obviously.
That
you care about more than anything.
Expecting these things to be 15, 20 minutes late, because they almost always are. I was just so impressed by the fact that Josiah Jervis's commitment ceremony started on the dot on time. Mm-hmm. That was really impressive to me, just because of how rarely that seems to happen.
Yeah. Well, I have to get used to sitting in the lower bowl. We went to a pizza house for dinner, and so I was too full. I couldn't even eat an ice cream sandwich. So that was a serious misplay on my part. So I'll have to do better. It was weird. We had Steve Smith right behind us. So
wow.
Yeah. I mean, not like he was like 2 rows back. He was back in the luxury box behind us. And I didn't bug him or anything, but I'm sure he enjoyed the game too. So anyway, we'll be back in a couple days. Thanks so much, guys. Make sure you continue to share the show with other friends. Make sure you tell them about it. Hopefully get up to 1,000 subscribers at some point on YouTube. It'd be really nice if we get there. There's a little hype button. I was probably too late in the show to mention this, but hit the hype button. It helps get the show to the algorithms to get more Michigan State fans to find it. So until next time, the Final Four is not on the schedule. Go green.